I started to write about Mo back in the beginning of the Fenty era, the mid 2000s, and what I appreciated about Mo was that he said it straight, and what he said was usually bared out to be accurate, which, as a journalist, that kind of surprises me. Because a lot of stuff that I hear is not always on the level, and Mo always told me the way it was. So I appreciate his inviting me to be part of this book launch. Couple questions. You came up in Washington, D.C. What is different now about your days, your early days in, as a child and a teenager in Washington, D.C.?
The fabric of the community has changed. When I came up, to me, it was more, it was diverse in another way. People worked together more. It wasn't as divided as it is now.
So you came up in the Mount Pleasant area, if I'm not mistaken? Petworth. Okay. So not too far
well, since '76, I lived in Petworth, except when I moved around here and there. But my grandparents still live in Petworth. And when we came up, it was more of a village. Even though I went astray for a while, you had more people in the community who reached out to young people and who weren't scared of young people. And now, those days are gone. Also, I remember when I moved in Petworth, every corner had a black corner store and business. And we were just like everybody else. One of the things I was asking him about Marion Barry, and I thought he was going to say something bad, but the thing that he said that amazed me was what I saw. He said, during Murray Berry's first 2 terms, if you wanted to work hard in Washington, D.C., it didn't matter whether you were black, white, Asian, whatever you were, you can do it. You can start a business, you can get a job, or whatever, the first 2 terms. And that's what I remember seeing. I remember seeing black businessmen. I remember seeing Asian businessmen. I remember seeing white businessmen. And we don't have that anymore. You know, it's more like the have and have-nots. You have to have a lot of money to start a business or have a lot of backers. And that's not the American dream to me. That's not a reality. And we've gotten away from empowering people.
What was the level of violence in Petworth when you were growing up? Was it were you scared as a teenager going to school, walking down the street?
Well, Petworth was unique. We got hit with the drug epidemic. When I came up, I used to spend a lot of time. They just named the building after W. Roundtree. That was one of my family members, and I spent a lot of time with her and Gwendolyn Haywood, who were 2 prominent civil rights lawyers. One of them who got the law passed for this Freedom Rider, so they can travel from state to state. And it's like that was a time when it was headed, like, as I grew, it got away from all that the drugs came. You see, one of the things that when you're smart and you can comprehend, you know that you can't get money with violence. And a lot of times, as you strategically think, you don't always have to have shootouts. We only shot out with the Jamaicans one time in our movie. And that's because we were united. What happens is, normally, just like with anything else...
So you had control of the business on your streets?
The group of guys I grew up with, Lump, Eric Tapp, and other guys, we had control of our community. So when we were in our community, I used to cut my neighbor's grass. I wouldn't let people come around there doing crazy stuff, And if somebody came around with violence, we would run them out.
So your parents still live in that neighborhood now. What is it like now?
My grandparents live in there, and probably 80% of the people on the block are white now. The houses, Gwendolyn Haywood, Debbie Roundtree, she co-signed, actually got the house in her name for my grandparents in '76. That house was $38,000 in '76. Now it's worth like $500,000. So you understand what's going on. Gentrification, and because over the last 30 years, we haven't been training African Americans to get skills, the skill set that they need in this city. A lot of the people who want to stay here can't stay here or can't afford to buy a $500,000 house. So a lot of people lost their houses to taxes, who want crack their parents and grandparents left them houses. A lot of people sold their houses and went out to Maryland. What we did, we talked our grandmother into getting the elevator on the steps because she was going to move to Maryland because of her legs and her weight, and she's still there to this day.